I'm gonna just get my one little comment in. They're dressing like a 6-year-old would dress to ballet class, if that makes sense.
Task accepted.
It's your girl Cameron, and I'm back at it again with another video. And today we are going to be talking about the new aesthetic, Balletcore. This fashion aesthetic is underway. If you go on TikTok, you'll see that the hashtag Balletcore has over 5.4 million views. This new substyle further pushes along the conversation on the never-ending aesthetics and the need for specifically women to keep up with them. It's an aesthetic that's in line with a hobby and an art form, so there's quite a few people who feel slightly touchy to the subject, which has been creating a bit of controversy. I've seen some discourse from outsiders or people on the internet saying that ballet dancers are elitist and snobby for turning their nose to the trend. A girl says, every time I see a dancer talk about Balletcore, it reminds me why I quit. Like, why are you all so nasty and elitist for what? So my goal today is I, as a former ballerina, I don't want to be that elitist, snobby perspective because that's not at all where I am personally coming from. I want to give a well-rounded argument on both sides. I thought my expertise, my experience, and my perspective could lend itself to this conversation. I follow tons of dancers on the daily, so I'm always seeing leotards, I'm always seeing tights, I'm always seeing bunts. But to see everyday people who are quote-unquote non-dancers or non-ballerinas participating is very interesting to me. Like, comment down below, what do you guys think of the Balletcore aesthetic? Do you like it? And also, do you think that we're just kind of piling on to the never-ending aesthetics? Like, do you think it's even necessary to label it? Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. And without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. So recently I've been seeing an influencer named Carla J, who I followed for probably a couple years, and I love her style, her fashion trend. She's always on it. And I couldn't help but notice maybe about 2 months ago that she was starting to rock ballet styled clothing. And I know she's not a ballet dancer. She proclaimed the term Pilates princess. She added the point shoes to her bio. She added a picture of herself doing ballet when she was a kid and genuinely kind of made it her aesthetic. And I'm not here to say that that's right or wrong because I really do like Carla's content. But I think her case was a specific one that I could point out. And I was like, I see the aesthetic. I see the vision. Now, I want to get into my background very briefly. I have danced since I was 3 years old, but I started to heavily get into ballet around the age of 12. I performed with the American Ballet Theater. So this is a short documentary U of M did. I was interviewed for this. My mom signed me up, so I didn't really know what I was saying, but this was rehearsals for the American Ballet Theater Sleeping Beauty performance. And then we got together with the company during the week of the show and put everything together. I've taken classes with New York City Ballet. I've traveled to New York to train at the Alvin Ailey School. I've danced under Debbie Allen. I have had a lot of experience, especially in the ballet space, because for a while I thought I wanted to be a ballerina. So that's kind of the perspective I'm coming at, but I also didn't have the stereotypical ballerina look, the stereotypical ballerina experience, because I wasn't some snobby rich kid who was participating in that art form. So I did get to see another side from my unique perspective. We're gonna talk about what exactly Balletcore is. Balletcore consists of pastel tones, baby pinks, creams, black, white, and baby blues. There's the use of soft and airy materials, so those kind of found in the ballet wrap skirts and tutu tulle. There's a romantic silhouette. These romantic silhouettes usually emphasize the neckline. If you ever see dancers in leotards, you might notice a lot of professional dancers actually don't wear the scoop necks, kind of like the 3-year-olds wear. A lot of people want to accentuate their silhouette, their collarbones. You'll also see ballet accessories along with these aesthetics. So leotards, ballet flats, wraparound cardigans, leg warmers, buns, scrunchies, bows, you name it. most of these are paired with these types of outfits. It is a very soft, quote unquote, feminine style. Historically, ballet and fashion have been intertwined. Chanel's 1930s tulle gowns were inspired by a 1932 production of the ballet Cotillion, and throughout history, the likes of Christian Lacroix and Vivienne Westwood have designed costumes for various ballet productions. By 1948, ballerinas regularly starred in movies like The Red Shoes and were featured in magazines like Life, as Americans clamored to get their hands on their own piece of glamour and cream-colored beauty that ballet culture offered. And in 1970s, brands like Danskin, which is a popular dance brand, started offering leotards and tights marketed to the public, so those who weren't dancers. And this actually segues a bit into the 1980s, where we know quote-unquote workout attire was very popular. Leotards, leg warmers. Here in the 21st century, the ushering in of Balletcore is said to be a potential evolution of athleisure. So athletic wear, you know, the Lululemon lines, the Athletica lines. Now, Balletcore, however, manifests into a more theatrical form of athleisure. Look at, for example, the rise of Pilates. A lot of ballet dancers, I know in college, I did a lot of Pilates. A lot of dancers use this to cross-train. And it's a great workout, but let's be real, it's trendy. And I've been seeing some women sport this Balletcore athleisure aesthetic in these classes. If they're not actually going to take a dance class, which, you know, they might be, but I would say a good majority of them probably aren't, you can wear it to something like a Pilates class, which is somewhat adjacent to dancing, ballet, etc. And most recently, we've seen ballet intertwined with fashion. For example, in Halpern's Spring/Summer 2020 collection, there were dancers actually on point modeling dresses and jumpsuits. And in January, Zara actually collaborated with the New York City Ballet on a collection of bodysuits. NYCB actually adopted and allowed themselves to be kind of warped into this world of fast fashion, which means that ballet is kind of doing what they got to do to keep up with the time. More commonly, you might notice it in Miu Miu campaigns, and we actually have seen it exhibited in pop culture, from Black Swan years ago to Olivia Rodrigo's video for Brutal. So my point for this section was to point out that ballet being intertwined in fashion is not the first time this has happened, and it's really been happening since the mid-20th century. Let's talk about why people love this aesthetic and why they are adopting it. A lot of young girls took ballet at a young age. Not everybody, but a lot of young girls have the same story of, my mom signed me up for ballet when I was 3 and I quit when I was 6. And if they didn't do it, there are a good amount of young girls that have expressed that they had wanted to when they were younger. Copeland Bangle writes, Balletcore is the trend of your younger self's dreams. It's your dress-up bin come to life. So for some people, there's nostalgia, but again, for the crowd who didn't participate or weren't able to participate in ballet or quit at a very young age, might be intrigued by this trend. People often look at ballerinas as the epitome of grace, beauty, elegance, and femininity. As much as women are progressing away from the ideals of what a woman should be, there's still a lot of women who desire to present very feminine. And so this trend inherently exudes that. A TikTok creator by the name of @MoBlackX has experimented with Balletcore, and she's a size 20. She says, quote, I really love the idea of embracing femininity and softness because so often these traits aren't associated with plus size girls. So people who would have otherwise not have been able to participate in ballet or would have not been welcomed in the ballet space are able to have fun and play with this style. I get to dress up, it's cute, and I feel feminine, and it's a style otherwise I probably wouldn't be able to rock. For some, this aesthetic lets them live out their childhood dream. Aesthetics included, but the dancing omitted. So instead of having to put in years of work, instead of being turned down by an art form that is so strict and is so elitist, I'll trade it for the aesthetic then. I'll dress like a ballerina, I'll look like one. You might even think I do ballet. But again, aesthetics included, the dancing is omitted. Ballet doesn't fully and openly embrace plus size bodies. And they're finally just coming around to Black people being in the ballet world and being front and center. Trust me, I know. So it's like, for people who complain about it, ballet is not the most accessible thing to do. So for a lot of people, it's fun to play in these styles and infiltrate a style of dress, an art form that otherwise ballet gatekeepers just wouldn't allow. Now, on the flip side, why do some ballerinas hate it? Why is there disdain for this trend? I came across a post where someone asked, why do people use Balletcore as an aesthetic when they don't do ballet? As a longtime ballet student, I don't get it. So similar to my last point, to segue, is very gatekept. So it's not surprising that some professional ballerinas would turn their nose up to the trend. It's not. And to be fair, ballet is extremely difficult. I think you are allowed to have some level of pride for what you do because it's one of the hardest things, again, that you can do. When we talk about the elitist idea of ballet, as a dancer, people will tell you ballet is the foundation of all dance. I grew up believing that for a very long time. Or people will say ballet is the only respectable form of dance. And it's because it's directly adjacent to European standards, which are almost always upheld in comparison to other cultures, and in this case, other dance styles. Like if I'm doing hip hop, is ballet really the foundation to all of my dances?
Raise the roof, raise the roof, raise the roof. Is this supposed to be like a combre back? You know? No, you don't. Okay.
If I'm doing West African dance, ballet dance ain't gonna do shit for me. But again, a lot of people center their opinions around ballet. Author of Turning Point, Chloe Angel, pointed out the fascination with this style in particular. And she says, quote, "We also need to notice what we're being sold when brands borrow from ballet. Ballet is diversifying, but it's an extremely white art form. And in many ways, it's synonymous with white hyperfemininity. And when fashion borrows from ballet, it's often borrowing that aspirational whiteness too." This might be subconscious for people. Some people might not even be thinking about this perspective. But as someone who's participated and has been in a lot of ballet spaces with people who were very serious about it, I often felt like the odd one out. I did feel like I was being judged. I did feel like I had to work 10 times harder. It wasn't the most welcoming space. And so for me, I had to kind of unpack some of those ideas and standards because that white hyperfemininity doesn't have to be for me. I don't need to fit myself in that mold if that's not what works for me. On the other hand, in defense of dancers, I also think some dancers dislike the romanticization of the ballet aesthetic because it's graceful and dainty and effortless as ballet looks. It is simply not that behind the scenes. Some dancers have expressed the feeling of being quote unquote fetishized through the lens of this aesthetic. I'm not saying that I fully agree with that, but I'm also not engulfed in ballet like I used to be years ago. So I don't really know like where exactly that full conversation is coming from. But from bloody toes to the expectation of perfection to torn ligaments, eating disorders, broken bones and feet, it's far from glamorous, right? A lot of dancers go through hell and back to look gorgeous on that stage. Chloe Angel also points out the Balletcore aesthetic simply takes the desirable things about ballet while leaving the other baggage that comes with it. She says, quote, "It's sort of like an uncritical, unquestioning lifting of the visuals, iconography, and the imagery of ballet." So that's the perspective of people saying, hey, we don't get paid, right? In some cases, we're being abused, we're being weighed, and y'all are just out here like, oh, I just want to look like a ballerina today. And I know this sounds like very much first world problems. As I think that her take is fair, I do think it's not uncommon that people adopt aesthetics from groups without having care for the actual issues that that group might face. Like, for example, I talk about this all the time, but people always use from Black culture and Black aesthetic, streetwear, and it's being co-opted by people who don't care about Black people, aren't around Black people. They simply copy and paste it without actually having to deal with the consequences that Black people have to for actually being Black or actually wearing these aesthetics, actually having my hair like this. And I know that's a way more serious issue. Like, that's apples to pears. But these sentiments aren't new. Dancers fight for proper labor wages. There's been scandals on sexual assault, harassment, and silencing. So if you do peel back those layers, some take it as, you think our life is so glamorous, but you don't care what it's like on the inside. So you just opt for the look, and it's easier that way. And so I've seen some dancers, and maybe they're not articulating it in that way, because this is my profession, this is my livelihood, and you guys are just like, this is the hot topic of the day. Now, I don't fully agree with that sentiment because of how inaccessible ballet is for most people. It's not something that people can just get up and be like, I want to do ballet. I want to be a ballerina. It is not that easy. It is a very expensive sport. I've said that so many times. So if it was, then I'd say, yeah, y'all, stop being lazy and do it. But for a lot of people, it's not that simple. So it's easy to sit here and say, well, you try it then. But a lot of people just literally cannot. And I want to put it out there. I'm not saying every person in the dance community hates the aesthetic. This is just me pointing out the couple of outliers who might feel that way. So to conclude this video, I don't think people dressing in baby pinks and wearing a leotard isn't really it's not a threat to ballet dancers at all. However, I can see it's kind of annoying when every 3 to 5 business days there's a new aesthetic. From that standpoint, yeah, it's kind of annoying. I don't think that's really a ballet thing, but I think that's more of a commentary towards this aesthetic, that aesthetic. Everything's an aesthetic. For some people, they aren't really living that life. They're not doing the work. So for some, it feels like a cheap interpretation. Because to be quite honest with you, I ain't gonna lie, some of the people dressing up in Balletcore aesthetic, I'm gonna just get my one little comment in. They're not dressing how a professional would actually dress. Like, they're dressing like a 6-year-old would dress to ballet class, if that makes sense. So some might feel like it is a cheap interpretation of it. I don't even think it's really that deep for a lot of people doing it. They're having fun. It's not somebody's culture or ethnicity. You know what I mean? It's somebody's profession. People dress up as firefighters, police officers, all the time. So for me, signing out as a dancer, you do you, boo. I just personally don't think you have to make, ballet your entire aesthetic if that's not what you do. Aesthetics in general, my note to you guys is if you like an aesthetic, you can pull bits and pieces, but don't feel like you have to be that person all the time. And that goes for dancers too. If you're a dancer, don't make dancing your whole personality, because I was definitely that girl. Signing out. Thanks for watching. Comment down below what do you guys think, and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.